Joining us right now is the representative of that area of Prince William County in Bristow, Rob Wittman, Republican. Thanks for joining us, Congressman.
Good morning, Brian and Larry. How are you this morning?
Well, we're pretty good. It seems to me, as you just heard from the Corey Stewart, your fellow Republican out there in Prince William County, that this is a sovereignty issue, isn't it? I mean, the federal government can't just do this, can they? I mean, you sort of represent the people of that district to the federal government. What can be done about this?
It absolutely is a sovereignty issue. It's clearly a situation of the federal government having to communicate with these localities as they consider this particular issue, and it's at every level. I mean, we're seeing it happen with military bases too. I had a hearing in my subcommittee on readiness within the House Armed Services Committee. They are transferring these unattended or unaccompanied alien children to military bases even without telling the community. So there's a total lack of communication here. The taxpayers deserve to know how their dollars are being spent, what the policy is, not just now, but in the long term. What are we going to do to address these unaccompanied alien children?
Well, what's insidious about this is that, for example, they were going to send them to Westminster, Maryland, but the governor, who says that he thinks we should show compassion on these children, apparently threw down the gauntlet and said, absolutely not. You're not sending them to Westminster, and they don't do it. And yet, if you're in a Republican district, they sneak them in and don't tell you anything about it. The governor of, Nebraska, has been asking the federal government, we know you've brought some kids to Nebraska. Can you tell me where they are? Can you tell me which school districts are going to have to absorb the cost of teaching these children? And they can't get answers out of the federal government. What can Congress do about this?
Well, Congress can demand answers, can demand a clear plan about what is the administration going to do. Specifically, a group of us sent a letter to the president saying, listen, the most humanitarian thing we can do is to make sure that we immediately get these children back home. That's one of the elements that needs to be part of this. But Congress can demand that the administration fully divulge exactly where these children are going. As I said, the hearing in my subcommittee the other day, we demanded from the Department of Defense and HHS to tell us exactly where they're going to be sending these children if they're sending them to military facilities. The same rule ought to apply if they're sending them to localities so they can understand what are the impacts going to be, how do they deal with that situation. It's unbelievable that they would just go about and scatter these children across the country without telling anybody what they're doing or how they're doing it or what their long-term plan is.
Do you intend to go and investigate this on a personal level and try to see what's going on in this situation?
Absolutely. Well, I've been in communications with folks here at the county level. We intend, and I have been going to places where we have allegedly heard that these unaccompanied alien children are being placed. I want to understand, is that indeed the case? What's happening there? If it is, under what conditions? I think all these questions need to be answered, and we're continuing to stay on top of it and to follow up where any of this information comes into us about where these things might be occurring.
Our guest is Representative Rob Wittman talking about the influx of unaccompanied alien children that have been flown into Prince William County, his district. We talk about the cost here. Listen, kids need things. They need an education. They need health care. You know, these kids get sick all the time, and they pass it around to each other. And as far as we know, I mean, I'm guessing these kids got inoculated before they brought them here. I sure hope so. But someone's going to have to pay for all of this. I asked Corey Stewart yesterday that very question. Here was his response.
We don't know, because we don't know how many children they're putting here. We don't know what their needs are going to be, whether they need medical needs or whatever it is, or schooling needs. We don't know how long they're going to be here. But most importantly, we don't know how many kids they're going to be sending to Prince William County. They've already sent some, but we don't know what the full extent of this is going to be in the long term.
So, Representative Wittman, they don't know at the county level who's going to pay for the needs of these children, how they're going to pay for them, how many there's going to be, how much it's going to cost. Do you know at the congressional level?
No, we have not been advised, as Chairman Stewart points out, the number of children. What are the conditions under which those children are going to be placed? In other words, is the facility they're placing them at, are they going to be responsible for feeding them, for clothing them, for providing for their health? All those questions are unanswered. It goes to the very basic level. How many and where? And then for how long? If you can't answer those basic questions and you can have no idea about what the costs are, that's why we're asking the administration for, what's the long-term plan? and now it's happening at every level. I mean, we're seeing it, in federal facilities, the potential housing these unaccompanied alien children there. We're seeing it now at local levels, and again, there is no plan, it appears like to me, and when there's no plan, you have no idea what the impacts are going to be, and now localities are trying to figure out, well, what are we going to do? And they can't even figure that out because the federal government will not tell them clearly what their plan is, and that's why the administration has to tell us what's going on now, but then what is their long-term plan with these unaccompanied alien children?
Could it be they don't have a plan?
That could very well be the case, and
they're
that's
making it up as they go
the
around.
Yeah. Exactly. I think it's one of those things where the magnitude of this, I think, has overwhelmed them so quickly. They're just trying to figure out what to do, and the difficulty is when you don't communicate with people about what you even think about might be in the offing. Then that creates suspicion and lack of trust, and I think that's where we are right now with how this whole episode is unfolding.
Congressman Wittman, you agreed at the beginning that this really is a sovereignty issue, and the federal government is just plopping these children in here without any communication with the state. So let's bring it to the state level. The Governor McAuliffe's job is not to just make things easy for the Obama administration; it's to protect the best interests of the Commonwealth of Virginia. Have you had any communication with the governor's office? Have we heard anything from them?
We haven't heard anything from the governor's office, and I would like to hear something from them, at least to be assured that they are engaging with the administration to determine what might their plans be for Virginia. We heard about the situation in Lawrenceville and St. Paul's College and what happened there in Brunswick County. And, of course, you heard the response from Brunswick County, and then Health and Human Services backed off of that. But it would be, I think, incumbent upon the governor to ask the administration, give us your plans on what you have in the offing for Virginia in relation to housing or taking these unaccompanied alien children.
Well, there is a good and legitimate reason why the people in the Commonwealth of Virginia deserve to have the answer to this. Number one, they're going to be asked to carry the load financially for these children when it comes time to educate them. That's going to cost people money. That's going to come out of people's back pockets. And it's going to be a surprise on school systems if they don't let us know in advance what the plan is. But secondly, I think, and more importantly, Congressman, we don't know the health condition of these children.
Well, that's exactly right. The public health issues there are many. And as you know, we had a case of swine flu in one of the facilities where these children were being housed. That's a significant issue, too, because if these children come here and there are public health issues, you have to know where they are, what their public health condition is. In other words, have they had their immunizations? We require that of children going into our school systems now. What happens if we have children that are coming here that are not immunized?
Yeah.
And we all know the impact of communicable diseases there. That's another whole element that's been unanswered in this issue.
And can you immunize these children without their parents' permission?
That's exactly right. Well, under our laws here, you can't do it for children here. The question is, can you do it for these unaccompanied
Sure,
children?
then we'll get sued by the parents as they're illegally here as well. All right, Representative Rob Wittman, we got to leave it there. But please keep us informed here on Mornings on the Mall as this develops. We have a keen interest in following up on it.
We will definitely do that, Brian and Larry. And thanks so much for having me on your show, and thanks for bringing this issue to light for people.
You got it,
pleasure.
Sir.